The incredible competition my parents exposed, where only one child could triumph. Adam Taylor's heart raced as he scanned the pages of his grandfather's dusty journal, eyes wide with a mix of excitement and dread. The air in the attic was thick with a musty smell, but all he could focus on were the words that spelled out a challenge. Only one child could triumph. They echoed through his mind like a siren call. For a fleeting moment, he imagined what it would feel like to stand proud in front of his family, basking in their admiration rather than drowning in their scrutiny. Yet the heavy weight of expectations crushed that spark, leaving an aching void. His siblings had always set the bar: valedictorian, state champion, prom queen. What had he ever done? Sinking deeper into the journal's crinkled pages, he learned about a long-forgotten family competition, a test meant to reveal hidden strengths, to dig beyond the medals and report cards. Would entering this competition dissolve the shadows cast by his siblings, or would it only amplify his inadequacy? He could already hear them, the skeptical chuckles, the whispers questioning his serious intentions. Could he bear that? Determination clashed with doubt, each feeling vying for dominance. "What if I fail?" raced through his mind. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As Adam prepared for the competition, tension coiled tightly around him. Each day began with the press of expectations weighing heavily on his chest, and every family dinner turned into a battleground of unspoken judgment. His brothers and sister exchanged tales of glory while he quietly picked at his food, questioning if he could ever rise up, break this monotonous cycle where he felt so profoundly inadequate. The thought gnawed at him. If he stumbled, it wouldn't just be personal failure, it would stain the Taylor name. Then, a startling revelation struck him like a lightning bolt. His grandfather's passionate dream about technology, something that ignited his youth, but was now the family's greatest secret. Adam discovered that beneath the facade of proud accomplishments lay buried ambitions and unfulfilled desires. Why had they hidden this? The urgency to prove himself intensified. Every lingering doubt morphed into an almost unbearable anxiety. What truths lay beneath their reputation? The battlefield he had always known now morphed into a labyrinth of conflicting loyalties. Did he dare confront it? He stood on the precipice, teetering between desire and fear, wrestling with the realization of what this competition truly meant. A knife edged through his thoughts. Was he ready to delve into the past and confront his family's tarnished honor? Adam's mind raced with possibilities, and his nerves crackled like live wires. He craved validation, but feared the fallout. With every passing moment, the echoes of previous generations urged him to take a step back, while his own ambition screamed for him to plunge headfirst into the depths of familial complexity. How far could the truth stretch before it snapped? As the competition loomed, his resolve began to fracture. Was he prepared to reclaim his identity and challenge the very essence of who the Taylors had been? In this vortex of conflicted emotions, the stakes couldn't be higher. Each heartbeat stuttered with the promise of revealing not only his own capabilities, but also the hidden truth that could either liberate or shatter the Taylor legacy. He stood trembling at the threshold of revelation, bracing for the chaos that would ensue as he made his choice: embrace the truth or turn away and hide yet again. In the days leading up to the competition, Adam found himself entangled in a web of conflicting thoughts and emotions. The pressure to succeed hung over him like a storm cloud, making it difficult to think clearly. He felt as if his family's legacy loomed larger than life itself, casting long shadows over his aspirations. Each time he pictured himself standing on that stage, a part of him recoiled, haunted by the fear that he might trip over the very expectations that had been woven into his identity. As he delved deeper into the competition preparations, Adam realized he would need to confront not only his family's past, but also his own insecurities. Armed with the knowledge gleaned from his grandfather's journal, he began to hunt for his own hidden strengths, those elusive qualities that had remained dormant in the face of familial pressure. He recalled moments when he had yielded to the voices of doubt, letting opportunities slip away only to surrender further into the shadow of his siblings' achievements. To combat the rising tide of anxiety, Adam created a strategy. He would identify the unique skills he possessed and practice them relentlessly. Over the next few days, he immersed himself in various activities, luminous ideas pouring from his journal to life as he honed his latent talents. He wasn't solely preparing for the competition, he was laying the groundwork to unveil the Adam that had been stifled for far too long. Each practice session revealed surprising abilities he had overlooked. Adam discovered he had a knack for storytelling, igniting the interest of those around him. Sitting in the dim light of his room, he practiced crafting narratives that captured the essence of his grandfather's dreams, while infusing them with his own voice. The words rolled off his tongue with increasing confidence, painting vivid pictures of innovation that resonated with each line. He also found solace in coding, a skill that had always fascinated him, but remained relegated to a hobby. With late nights spent navigating online tutorials, he learned to create small projects, each line of code a stepping stone toward a personal breakthrough. The satisfaction of piecing together technology invigorated him. In those moments, the expectations faded, and he was free to explore the expanse of his capabilities. Yet, even with his newfound determination, doubt still lunged at him like a shadowy figure. Walking into the next family dinner felt like marching toward a firing squad. Conversations whipped around him, a symphony of bragged achievements that made his heart pound against the cage of his ribs. This time, however, Adam clutched tightly to the realization that he was preparing for more than just a competition. He was stepping into his own identity. But as he navigated through comments, laughter, and backhanded compliments, he detected an undercurrent, a subtle discontent beneath his siblings' playful banter. Were they threatened by his growing confidence? The idea sent shivers down his spine. Instead of retreating into his familiar role of the ignored, a fierce determination ignited within him. That night, Adam gazed at his reflection, the weight of expectation borne like armor. It felt empowering, but it was the voice behind his reflection that caught him off guard. "Are you ready to stand up for who you are, Adam?" it taunted softly. Excitement coursed through him, igniting an unexpected bravery. In the subsequent days leading to the competition, he would need to fortify his resolve and prepare to face not only the challenges of the event, but the looming specter of his family's critical gaze. The time had come for him to confront the shadows, to truly wrestle with the legacy bound deep in his blood, both the one he inherited and the one he hoped to redefine. As the competition drew nearer, a decisive moment loomed on the horizon, and Adam felt the tension coil tighter around him. The time had come to face the truth of his ambitions and summon the courage to declare his worth. This wouldn't just be a fight for his validation, but a fight to emerge from the shadows of expectation. Would he rise or would he falter? The stakes had never been higher, and the impending competition awaited just ahead. The morning of the competition arrived with an edge of latent tension hanging in the air. Adam had spent a sleepless night wrestling with his thoughts, caught between anticipation and trepidation. As sunlight sliced through the curtains, sharpening the edges of his anxious mind, he knew the day would demand everything he had unearthed from within himself. In the kitchen, the relentless clatter of dishes and spirited laughter filled the air as his family prepared for the event. They buzzed about the upcoming festivities, unaware, or perhaps unwilling to acknowledge, the internal landscape that churned like stormy seas within Adam. He glanced at the table laden with his family's favorites as a wisp of anger ignited inside him. All those meals had been shared under the weight of unspoken expectations, and could he serve them again one more time without feeling diminished? He steeled himself, attempting to quell the rising tide of resentment. Instead of succumbing to the familiar feelings of being lost in the crowd, he reminded himself why he had chosen to embark on this journey: to unravel the double knot of legacy and expectation. It was time to assert himself. As he finished his breakfast, he took a quiet moment to recenter. With every deliberate breath, he focused on the skills he had honed, the narratives he had crafted, the confidence that had sprouted from his storytelling, and the creative sparks felt during late-night coding sessions. These were his allies. With each affirmation, he pushed away the nagging doubts that flared up like angry fires. The competition wouldn't just put his skills to the test, it would be a declaration of his identity and a proclamation of his worthiness. On the drive to the venue, the car was filled with chatter about his siblings' achievements. They recounted their latest accolades, laughter punctuating the air. But each laugh felt like a striking blow to Adam's resolve. In the rearview mirror, he studied their faces, stark contrasts to his determination. With a full breath, stress slid off his shoulders as he reminded himself that this was not about them. It was about reclaiming his story. Upon arriving, the atmosphere was electric, charged with butterflies and nerves fluttering everywhere. Adam felt the daunting pulse of the crowd as spectators filled the auditorium, anticipating dazzling performances and stunning accomplishments. His heart raced, but he now understood this shared intensity. It was a collective essence encapsulating dreams and aspirations, yet distinct from the legacy that had shackled him. The program began, and competitors exhibited their talents, each act resonating with confidence. Adam watched closely, observing their nuances, the conviction in their performances, and their singular narratives, crafted to capture an audience's heart. For the first time, he did not feel intimidated, but inspired. He saw that every performer was competing not just against each other, but against their own limitations. They, too, were fighting against the chains of expectation. When his turn approached, adrenaline surged. "Stand tall, let my voice be heard." This was his moment to shine, not only for himself, but for the legacy he hoped to reshape. As he stepped onto the stage, he took a deep breath. The spotlight enveloped him, illuminating his path forward. He began to weave his story, integrating those cherished elements from his grandfather's journal with his unique interpretation. As the words flowed, he noticed their grasp tightening around a truth he had yet to fully confront, a realization that the shadow looming behind him was not only familial expectations, but his own fear of failure. In that moment, he committed wholly to his narrative, unraveling his experiences and daring to showcase the Adam yearning to break free from the past. The reception from the audience echoed throughout the space. A wave of applause washed over him, reminding Adam that he was not alone. He was part of something greater. But as he basked in the moment, the nagging doubt returned, creeping in like a thief determined to pour salt on his newfound confidence. Was this performance enough to transform perception forever? Would he leave a mark beyond this day? The competition was more than a culmination of talents, it was the turning point of his identity. His declaration was underway, but the true test loomed closer. Would he emerge victorious, not just in the competition, but in his personal battle? Standing in the spotlight, he felt the weight shift. The real question remained. Once the applause faded, how would he confront the unquenchable thirst for approval that lingered in his heart? As the applause peaked and then began to taper, the weight of the moment settled on Adam like a thick fog. He took a deliberate breath, anchoring himself in the reverberations of appreciation that faded into the background. The cheers had moments ago felt like liberation, yet now stood as a reminder of the fleeting nature of validation. What should have felt like pure accomplishment morphed into an unsettling void, the uncertain aftermath leaving him grappling with the echoes of his own anxiety. As he exited the stage, a haze of exhilaration and self-doubt wrapped around him. The smiles of his family blurred under a film of uncertainty. Had he made them proud? Did he pendulate away from their expectations just enough, or had he veered too far off course? He noticed their faces. Excitement mingled with an unspoken pressure. The familiar tug-of-war between seeking approval and asserting his individuality ignited again. Adam could feel the chains he thought he had begun to shake off rattling in the depths of his mind. In the green room, he was greeted by fellow competitors, each wearing an air of relief or triumph, their laughter cutting through his internal turmoil. As he engaged in small talk, he halfway listened, distracted by the clamoring questions that churned within him. The conversations buzzed around him. Stories of dreams fulfilled, future plans laid out before them like intricate maps. Meanwhile, Adam felt like he was still searching for his own path, lost amidst those who seemed to know where they were heading. Personal reflections surged forward as he leaned against the wall, re-examining his journey so far. Challenging doubts surfaced, questioning whether he merely danced around the truth rather than fully confronting it. Had he chosen a worthy narrative, or merely played a role crafted by others? The dissonance between his performance and his need for validation created a deep fissure within him. Every applause felt like both a victory and a whispering reminder of the unseen expectations he struggled against. As he pondered, a young woman approached him, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Your story was incredible! I felt every bit of it," she exclaimed, her admiration genuine and infectious. Yet, instead of basking in her praise, Adam felt his heart flutter with unease, which transmuted into an impulse to deny the compliment. "Thanks, but I think I could have done better," he replied, self-deprecation spilling out before he could rein it back in. Her smile faltered slightly, making him regret his words. Why was it so difficult to accept a compliment? Was he always going to live in the shadow of his inner critic, unable to appreciate the fruits of his labor? "Hey, it's your voice," she said, "and it resonated. Don't doubt that." Her sincerity reached into him, smoothing the jagged edges of his self-doubt, if only temporarily. Their brief interaction highlighted a revelation. He didn't have to continuously strive to meet external expectations. His personal growth required an embrace of self-acceptance, an undertaking more valuable than accolades. With the competition results nearing, Adam ventured outside for fresh air. The cool breeze stung his cheeks, clearing some of the fog clouding his thoughts. What if the competition wasn't just about winning approval from others, but also about confronting the victor inside himself? He leaned against the railing and let the wind fill his lungs, allowing clarity to seep back in. But even as the breeze brushed against him, the question lingered. What would redefine his moment if the outcome shattered his expectations? A deeper urgency churned within him, overlaid with the idea that his journey might be shifting, teetering on the cliff of self-discovery. As he turned towards the entrance, the host's voice boomed through the auditorium, announcing the impending results. A knot of apprehension twisted in his stomach, entwining with the embers of hope ignited by the young woman's encouragement. The arena filled with anticipation, and Adam felt the stakes rising once again. Would the results serve as a final validation, or merely act as a catalyst for him to confront his insecurities head-on? The moment of truth was close at hand, intertwining his fate with a resolution he hadn't yet fully acknowledged. As he stepped back inside, he braced himself, not just for recognition, but for the adventure of redefining who he intended to become. As Adam re-entered the auditorium, the atmosphere resonated with hushed anticipation. His heart raced with each step closer to the stage where the results would be revealed. Anxiety twisted in his gut, unfurling like a vine as the reality of his situation bore down on him. This moment might either reaffirm his place or ignite an avalanche of self-doubt that had haunted him during the competition. He scanned the audience, searching for familiar faces. His parents' expressions, a blend of pride and worry, increased his internal pressure. They had always carried their own expectations. They saw potential in him that he struggled to see in himself. He wished to show them not just victory, but the courage to embrace who he truly was. If only he could reclaim the sense of authenticity he felt during his performance. As the MC launched into an elaborate introduction, Adam's mind wandered, entangled in memories of past failures and misconceptions. Each recollection felt like an anchor, weighing him down. What if he didn't meet anyone's expectations? The kicker was realizing that he had spent too much time worrying about performing for others. His life truly could not hinge upon their judgment. In the backdrop of this mental wrestle, the host's voice melded back into focus, announcing the competitors who had not made it to the final round. Adam's heart thumped against his ribs as each name decreased the likelihood that he might be called last. With every mention, a bittersweet cocktail of hope and dread surged within him. The unknown outcome pressed against his chest. Adam's mind drifted to the young woman who had given him a glimmer of encouragement after his performance. Through her belief, he felt a fleeting connection, a deeper understanding of what it meant to share one's voice. But was merely muting himself to fit within the confines of that expectation enough to forge a meaningful path? The host cleared his throat and then, with flourish, began the announcement of the top 3 participants. The remaining competitors stood beside Adam, their tension palpable. As each name was called, he felt a heightened sense of anticipation morphing into despair. As the final 2 were revealed, he found himself clenching his fists, summoning the courage to navigate the tempest within. In second place, the host announced, leaving a dramatic pause, Adam Carter. The word second struck him like a blow. The room erupted into applause, but for Adam, the sound was muffled. The recognition felt dulled by the weight of potential unfulfilled. He stood frozen, grappling amid the chasm between exhilaration and an unshakable sense of failure. He stared at the winner, an acquaintance whose presence was a stark reminder of how close he had come without truly achieving what he desired. Was he doomed to oscillate between being recognized as talented and understanding that it didn't align with his own vision? The celebratory shouts around him became a cacophony, drowning out his inner voice. As he stepped down from the stage, Adam took a deep breath and confronted the gnawing discontent. Perhaps this outcome was not the end, but a necessary chapter in a more profound journey of self-awareness. He resolved to transform this feeling of inadequacy into fuel for future endeavors. But what shape would that endeavor take? Standing at the crossroads of disappointment and opportunity, a question loomed large. Was he willing to redefine what victory meant to him? With uncertainty thick in the air around him, such a determination would require courage he had yet to discover within. The next challenge beckoned, waiting just beyond the shadows of second place, a challenge that asked him to summon the authenticity he had hesitated to embrace fully. Would he indeed rise to confront not just the echoes of judgment, but also the call of his own aspirations? As the applause began to fade into a distant echo, Adam felt an unfamiliar lightness start to creep into his chest amid the heaviness of his disappointment. He stepped away from the stage and into the corridor, which felt starkly empty in contrast to the crowd outside. Perhaps the solitude would provide clarity, a moment to process how he felt about the results and, more importantly, himself. Each breath felt intentional as he sat on an unoccupied bench, the lingering buzz of recognition still pulsing beneath his skin. The euphoria of second place clashed violently with his yearning for something more profound. Was there merit in being the runner-up, or had he merely been treading water? If anything, Adam understood one thing clearly. He would not let this experience be defined solely by an accolade that felt insufficient. The disappointment had such a sharp edge to it that perhaps it would cut deeper, forcing him to confront the essence of who he aspired to be. Around him, the sounds of celebration waned, making room for contemplation. It was time to recalibrate his mindset. He took stock of the performances he admired, his own included. These were moments marked not just by technical prowess, but by genuine self-expression. The young woman, whose support lingered in his mind, had embodied that authenticity. She had embraced her flaws and showcased them unabashedly. This aspect of her performance struck a chord that resonated with Adam. He craved that connection, not merely for accolades, but as a testament to his own journey. Could this experience fuel a transformative path? He began to envision what stepping into his own authenticity could look like. Perhaps he had failed to allow himself full vulnerability, prioritizing the need to be accepted over expressing who he truly was. The idea began to take root, and with it emerged a plan. Adam decided that rather than wallowing in a perceived failure, he would use this moment as a catapult into unexplored territory. He envisioned a series of challenges he could undertake, performances where he could weave aspects of his identity into the narratives, revealing vulnerability with each act. Would he dare to connect his range of emotions with others in a way that left them moved? But such ambition came with risks, didn't it? Exploring authenticity meant opening himself up to potential criticism, exposing himself not just to applause, to the very judgment he had feared. Nevertheless, wouldn't that in itself be a victory? In that instant, as hope crystallized in his heart, he made a commitment to embrace this journey, no matter how fraught it might be. Yet beneath the resolve simmered an anxious question. Could he truly withstand the critiques that might accompany revealing his true self? Would he have the endurance to persist in a world that preferred polished versions over raw truths? He stood from the bench, a newfound determination fueling each step as he rejoined the celebratory crowd. This was not the end. It felt more like an invitation to redefine success. The path forward stretched ahead, uncertain yet tantalizing. The taste of second place lingered, but it would be a mere stepping stone. In the midst of the crowd, he caught sight of the young woman who had encouraged him earlier, chatting enthusiastically with a group. Inspiring and fearless, her confidence sparked a thought. What if she could help him discover his own voice? He took a deep breath, the tension of anxiety mingling with burgeoning courage. The moment arrived for action. He needed to approach her, and as he moved forward, one daunting realization crystallized in his mind. Whether he would embrace the opportunity or let fear paralyze him would define this chapter. Would he confront his doubts and seize the moment, or retreat to the safety of silence? The decision lay ahead, and with it the profound potential of self-discovery. As Adam navigated through the celebratory crowd, the cacophony of laughter and cheers blended into a daunting backdrop. Each step toward the woman felt heavier than the last, as his mind spun with a rush of self-doubt. What would he say? Would she even want to hear from him? The uncertainty gripped him, squeezing his resolve while simultaneously fueling his determination. When he finally stood before her, the young woman turned, her face lighting up with recognition. "Hey, you performed beautifully out there." The sincerity in her voice offered a fleeting sense of comfort, but Adam's heart raced. He realized this was more than a simple conversation. It was an opportunity to share his aspirations, to connect over a mutual passion. "Thanks," he replied, forcing a smile. I've been thinking a lot about what it means to be authentic on stage." The words tumbled out, and he barely recognized his own voice. Was it tinged with urgency? He wanted to delve deeper, to reveal the wrestling match inside him, but vulnerability felt like a double-edged sword. "Authenticity, huh? That's a big word," she said, leaning in slightly as if encouraging him to drop his defenses. "Most people just want the applause, but I think audiences can feel when something's real." Her words struck a chord. Adam noticed her passion, an embodiment of what he aspired to be, confident, unapologetically herself. With every second ticking away, he felt the weight of his own facade press heavily on him. "But what if they don't like the real me?" he blurted out before he could think better of it. "Then they don't," she replied with a shrug, her honesty disarming. "Letting go of their approval is liberating. You'll find your tribe, those who resonate with you, your true self." A flicker of hope ignited within him. He hadn't considered the possibility that being vulnerable could craft genuine connections rather than isolate him. "You make it sound easy," Adam admitted, a slight chuckle escaping him despite the seriousness of his internal battle. "It's not," she responded earnestly. "It requires bravery. It means facing the parts of you that make you uncomfortable and putting them out there anyway. The risk is worth the potential reward." Her confidence challenged him. The retreat fought against the yearning to dive deeper and break the chains of self-doubt. With newfound conviction, he decided to probe further. "If I take that plunge, can you help me? Maybe mentor me in this journey?" The question hung in the air, heavy with anticipation. Her response would matter more than any accolade. Would she see potential in him, or would she dismiss his plea as naive? The prospect of vulnerability felt intoxicating, but it was also terrifying. "Of course, I'd love to help. Just know it won't be an easy ride," she said, her smile radiant. "But I promise you it'll be worth it." Adam felt a rush of energy pulse through him. This was more than an offer. It was an alliance against his fears and preconceptions. As they exchanged information and set a time to meet, he felt a vast horizon of possibilities unfurl before him. However, an unsettling question echoed in his mind. Was he ready to confront the ugly truths within himself, the shadows of self-critique that lurked beneath the surface? With every step away from their conversation, an unsettling realization loomed. Facing these truths could shatter him as easily as it could liberate him. As he left the noisy crowd behind and stepped into the cool night air, Adam felt the weight of his ambitions pressing against him. His journey had just begun, filled with uncharted territories of discovery and introspection. He had taken a crucial step, but now came the daunting task of finding and owning his voice among the cacophony of expectations. And as he walked away, one stark thought pierced his conscience. What lay beyond the comfort zone was not simply the road to his authentic self, but also a confrontation with the very essence of who he believed he was meant to be. The question hung heavily before him. Would he have the courage to reveal the truth lurking in the depths of his identity, or would fear ensnare him once more? The following morning dawned with a thick haze, as if the world around him mirrored the confusion swirling within Adam's mind. He had promised himself he would embrace this mentorship opportunity, yet as he sat in his kitchen nursing a cup of coffee, the prospect felt more daunting than invigorating. He stared into the dark liquid, searching for answers that eluded him as fiercely as his own sense of self. "What if I'm just fooling myself?" he murmured, to no one in particular. His reflection in the glossy surface looked back, an image of uncertainty. The woman's words danced like fireflies in his mind, giving light, yet also highlighting the shadows, the parts he had long tried to suppress. Authenticity. It was not just a buzzword to impress. For him, it was a call to arms. Adam's phone pinged, jolting him from his reverie. A reminder of the meeting he had arranged with her. Time to confront the looming questions and, more importantly, himself. Arriving early at the cafe, he found a corner seat that offered him the solace to collect his thoughts. The subtle clatter of cups mixed with low conversations formed a comforting bubble around him, yet unease bubbled beneath it. He gently rubbed his palms against his jeans, as if seeking some outward reprieve from the pressure building inside. When she appeared, her bright smile cut through his anxiety like a beam of sunlight. "Hey, you made it!" She slid into the seat across from him, her energy palpable. "Ready for our journey?" "Ready," he affirmed, though the conviction in his voice wavered. He was stepping into the unknown, a terrain laden with potential risks that made him feel both exhilarated and terrified. "Let's start from the top. What does authenticity mean to you?" she asked, eyes glinting with curiosity. He hesitated, grappling with how to express the chaos inside him. "I guess I've always felt like I had to be someone else to fit in, to please. The real me feels buried, and I'm scared of what will happen if I dig him out." Her expression softened. "That's the crux of it, isn't it? Letting go of the facade isn't just about performing, it's about trusting that who you truly are is enough." Before he could respond, the weight of her insight crashed over him, leaving him speechless. The confidence she exuded was both intimidating and inspiring. How does one trust themselves when every introspective thought feels heavy with judgment? "Here's an exercise," she proposed, interrupting his spiral of self-doubt. "Create a performance piece that represents who you are without the masks, something raw and vulnerable. Share it with me next week." The suggestion felt like a challenge, a test of his burgeoning courage. "And if it's terrible," he countered, his voice trembling slightly, "then it's a step. The path of authenticity is filled with missteps. It's about progress, not perfection." The gravity of her statement lingered in the air, sparking a flicker of determination within him. He envisioned standing on stage, not with applause driving him, but with the intent to reveal himself. The real Adam. What would that look like? What would he have to confront beyond mere nerves? As they continued to discuss logistics and share personal anecdotes, he felt an unfamiliar stir of excitement. Each word exchanged chipped away at his fears, revealing fragments of a self he had almost forgotten existed. Yet another question loomed in the shadows of his mind. If he dared to show this raw version of himself to the world, how would those closest to him react? In straying from the expected, would he risk losing the connections he valued? As they wrapped up the session, he felt a peculiar mix of exhilaration and dread. This wasn't merely about performing, it was about transforming. Walking back home, his steps felt lighter, but the weight of the challenge ahead lingered like a heavy blanket. Would he truly have the courage to strip away the layers he had so carefully crafted and reveal something more vulnerable, something unguarded? With each step, he grappled with an unsettling question. Was he ready to confront not just the world's gaze, but also the judgment of his own mind? The journey to authenticity was fraught with potential pitfalls, and the path ahead was undeniably steep. Would he climb it, or would fear anchor him to safer ground? The week unfolded with an unease that clung to Adam like a second skin, each day melding into the next. As he arrived at work, the hum of office chatter felt deafening, a stark contrast to the quiet chaos inside his mind. He kept replaying the moment they had discussed authenticity, the promise he had made to create something real. His hands shook slightly as he poured himself the usual cup of coffee, an odd sense of urgency adding fervor to his movements. "Hey, you okay?" Emily, his coworker, cocked her head, concern etching her features. "Yeah, just trying to figure some things out," he replied, attempting to mask his apprehensions. The truth felt too raw for dialogue. He settled at his desk, surrounded by spreadsheets and reports that blurred into a haze before him. Instead of diving into the mundane, his thoughts spiraled towards the performance piece he had to create. He closed his eyes, envisioning a blank canvas, an empty stage where he stood as his true self, undiluted and bare. Yet with that vision blossoming came the overwhelming fear of exposure, as if every audience member held a mirror reflecting his insecurities. The hours dragged painfully as his mind wandered back to their discussion. He had pledged to confront his vulnerabilities, yet in the drudgery of his day-to-day life, those commitments felt like whispering echoes in an empty chamber. What if he failed? What if he stood there, mouth dry, unable to articulate the core of who he was? After work, Adam found himself in front of the mirror, peeling back the layers that had become his default armor. He didn't recognize the man staring back, someone who had hidden away for too long. He rehearsed lines he imagined delivering, caught between humor and pain, interspersed with pauses for breath. Each iteration felt disingenuous, a performance not of himself, but of the man he thought he should be. The next day at the cafe, Adam's heart raced as he walked through the door. She was already seated, her expression both supportive and expectant. "Hey, excited to see what you've come up with." "I'm getting there," he hesitated, shifting uncomfortably in his seat. "I've been thinking a lot, and it feels daunting." "Good. Daunting is usually a great sign. It means you're pushing your boundaries. Let's talk it through." He described his intentions and concerns, her attentive nods encouraging him, illuminating the once timid ideas that began surfacing. Yet beneath the enthusiasm, a bitter taste of doubt lingered. Could he truly lay himself bare in front of someone, let alone an audience? "Imagine," she urged gently, "if you share your truth, how liberating that could be. What if it's not just about performance, but about connecting with others on a deeper level?" The simplicity of the thought struck him sharply. What if this wasn't just a performance, but a chance to forge bonds through unguarded honesty? The stakes were high, but in his chest a flicker ignited, a growing desire to risk failure for the sake of liberation. Nevertheless, dread crept in, pervading his newfound resolve. This was not simply a challenge to be met, it was a plunge into vulnerability. Unable to shake the weight of his reservations, he found himself vacillating between the urge to take a step forward and the instinct to retreat. What if authenticity stripped him of the connections he valued? "Are you okay?" she prompted, reading his silence. I don't know if I can do this," he confessed finally, fear infiltrating his voice. They locked eyes, the air thick with his uncertainty. "Being scared is part of the process," she assured him. "You have to decide which is stronger, the fear of judgment or the desire to be known." As he left that day, a torrent of conflicting emotions surged within him, invigorated yet scared. The reality was stark. In revealing his authentic self, he would tread onto a precipice with no clear view of what lay below. Was he prepared to risk it all for the possibility of something greater? With every step home, the weight of his decision grew heavier. Who was he, really? And what would become of him once he embraced this form of vulnerability? In the coming days, he would have to confront his fears head-on. Would he take his first bold step toward self-revelation, or would he let potential slip through his fingers once again? The moment was drawing near, and he could no longer skirt around it. With each tick of the clock, the countdown had begun. Would he rise to this monumental challenge, or would he be left still ensnared by doubt? In the days leading up to the performance, Adam stood at a crossroads of fear and hope, each passing hour tightening the knot in his stomach. Yet he knew this was not merely a performance. It was an act of rebellion against the shadows that had loomed large for far too long. He resolved to take this leap, to unveil the raw, unfiltered essence of himself. Authenticity would be both his shield and his sword. On the night of the performance, the ambiance trembled with electric anticipation. Spectators filled the small venue, their laughter and murmurs creating a mosaic of encouragement and inspiration. Adam paced nervously backstage, allowing the weight of the moment to anchor him. The young woman's words reverberated in his mind. "You'll find your tribe." He focused on that notion as a seed of courage took root, pushing away the encroaching doubts. When his name was called, Adam stepped into the spotlight. It was a surreal moment as he took center stage, heart thumping wildly in his chest. As he faced the audience, he chose to breathe deeply, feeling the spotlight's warmth wash over him. This was his platform to unveil who he truly was, not the shadow flitting in the periphery of his siblings' accomplishments, but a bold, distinct individual ready to conquer the fear that had stalked him. He began recounting his journey, his struggles, his fears, and the often overwhelming pressure to meet expectations. Each personal story resonated deeply as he wove in the lessons learned from his grandfather's journal. He infused vulnerability into every word, showcasing not just personal triumphs, but the arduous path to self-acceptance. As he delved into the substance of his narrative, he felt the layers of facade peel away, revealing the core self that had long been hidden. The audience hung onto his every word. Eyes widened in recognition, breaths caught in empathy, and laughter erupted at his candid humor, moments that felt authentic and real, rather than rehearsed or scripted. Adam was no longer just performing, he was opening a window into his soul, reaffirming that authenticity was indeed magnetic. When he completed the piece, a wave of applause surged through the room, long and loud, filled with a collective recognition of his courage and truth. Adam stood in that moment, not only embraced by validation, but also buoyed by the realization that he had finally stepped into the full spectrum of who he was. He had confronted the ghosts of judgment, standing tall in his own skin, basking in the light of approval that came not just from the audience, but from within himself. Later that evening, basking in the glow of unity with his audience, Adam found the young woman. Her eyes sparkled with admiration. "You were incredible! That was raw and brave!" she exclaimed, her excitement infectious. "Thank you, but it felt bigger than just a performance," he admitted, his heart pounding with the thrill of self-realization. "It was a chance to reclaim my voice." As they shared their thoughts on the experience, Adam felt a sense of comfort, an authenticity between them that promised growth beyond mere applause. He could see how far he had come in such a short time, from battling self-doubt to owning his inner narrative. In that moment, he understood that the true victory lay in his newfound confidence and the belief that his voice mattered. Weeks passed, and Adam immersed himself in this journey of authenticity, feeding his ambitions with tracked goals and passionate pursuits. He sought opportunities to share his story, recognizing it bore the weight of meaning that resonated with others. He formed a niche community that thrived on vulnerability, strengthening connections both personal and professional. His family finally noticed the transformation as well. While they initially approached him with skepticism, they embraced his journey and supported his newfound resolve. As he anchored himself in honesty, he proved to them, more importantly to himself, that his worth was not a reflection of others' accomplishments, but rather an intrinsic value he was only beginning to understand. Each narrative and every connection carved out a space filled with admiration for the person he had become. Adam's journey was not simply a chase for validation, it was a profound reclamation of identity. The fears that once clouded his ambitions evolved into stepping stones towards profound goals. Finally, he found himself standing proud and confident. Recognition poured in from friends, family, and newfound allies. Adam had achieved what he initially struggled to believe was possible. He had cultivated not only a deep understanding of his own strengths, but had also established a solid presence that wove his distinct narrative into a tapestry of worthy endeavors. In truth, Adam Taylor had conquered himself, not to merely shine in the spotlight, but to illuminate a path for himself and others yearning for authentic connection. A well-earned respect flourished around him, and as he stepped into the next chapter of his life, he knew it was only the beginning. Now, dear friends, if you found this emotional journey moving, you need to subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment your reactions and theories about this transformation. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your engagement drives this soulful journey forward.